Good guys, my name is Lord Tomo. We're going to get to our Sonic the Hedgehog tour Iron Click. As you know, I'm Lord Tomo with the good old blues to Sonic the Hedgehog from my side and bring out. Tell you what, my intros are getting more aggressive towards Sonic in my later years. So, for those who may or may not know, this is Sticks the Badger. This is going to be titled as Sonic Boom's Sticks Plush Review. So it's my review and take on this. Now I'm going to say straight out of the bat, when I first purchased this actual plush itself, I was a bit annoyed by it through reasons which are more or less personal, which I will of course address. But of course, as pretty much just observing this plush again, obviously in the later week or so, my opinion has changed, and I will go through the ins and outs of that progression. Now this was fan requested, or subscriber requested, so if you have any requests on stuff that you want me to review, let me know. If I have it, I will review it. If not, I'll buy it and I will review it, of course, and I will do it periodically. So let's go through the ins and outs of this plush itself. Now this is one of, I guess, a few iterations of this character in forms of merchandising, being a plush, and of course there's a figurine, and that's pretty much as far as you're going to get. So in plush forms, this is pretty much the first of, that I can recollect, of hopefully many plushes of this thing to come out. So we'll see what happens. Now for the most part, she actually corresponds to her actual character design in the game, comic, or whatever medium source you're basically looking to see her. Now there is a slight hiccup which I will bring to shortly, but pretty much let's go through the head sculpts and body sculpts and all the fun little sculpts that correspond to it. First off and foremost, Sticks the Badger, I was about to say something else, but Sticks the Badger always had a rugged look, a barbarian look, a very animalistic look, which is quite ironic for me to say, being that she is an animal by default, but it is what it is. Now, what they've really done superbly, which I found extremely nice, that I didn't really pick up when I first purchased her, is the fact that she doesn't have the standard, stock standard E designs that Sonic, Knuckles, Tails normally has, which is normally a triangle. It is predominantly a semi-triangle, then it just comes out and gives a little curvature effect. So there's like three little bobs there, which kind of gives it this roughness look to it, which I think is superb and a great attention to details, and is exactly the same on the other side. You have the inner lining. Now it's very hard to see, but it's not just a material, it looks like it's a triangle created by various stitching formats. So it's literally just a massive triangle, but the triangle itself is very stitched, which I think is great, and is definitely something that I wasn't expecting in this plush itself. Now, unlike other plush manufacturers, for example GE Entertainment and the Jopolis Sega toys, where they basically do an iron press design on the actual eye itself, these ones in particular, Sticks, is stitched on, which if you look closely is absolutely superb. So you see the outer lining, which is great, and of course you see her little, if you can see it properly, her eyelashes on either side. So these are actual stitches. So it's not like a sticker where it's just placed on, iron pressed by steam, and away it goes. These are actually stitched on, which is awesome with attention to detail. And of course you have her ears, her eyes, and the pupils of the eyes extremely phenomenally stitched. So already it's won me over in that regards. I cannot complain. Now you do have the I'm gonna call it the orange crest, which does pretty much go to the pivot point of her head, which I think is pretty nice. I'm not bad about it. And of course you have the obligatory nose, which is just like a little material folded over, and it does suffer from what most plush corresponding with the little pointed nose has, where it basically tilts on one side and whatnot on the other side, depending on your plush. Now of course in this particular one you can form it straight, which I do have it straight, which I think is awesome. The next thing you have is a big smiley face. Now this is just a small nitpick, but I would have preferred to have her angry face, in this. If you guys watch the Sonic Boom, where she gets kind of like angry and animalistic more so than the other characters, I would have preferred that. It does not take away anything from this plush whatsoever. That's purely a preferential element that I would have won. Maybe they might have it in the future, who knows, you never know. But I thought this was pretty adorable. Now on the back, it's just a pretty much unified color form, which is, it's hard to really tell, but it's pretty much kind of like a darker shade of brown, which I think is pretty nice. I mean, it is what it is, and I'm not here to complain. And you have her little hashtag here. I would have preferred this to be, I don't know, underneath her dress, for funny enough, or maybe further in the back, but because it's somewhat intrusive, and you just have the Sonic logo and the company, which is Tommy, which is awesome. Now there is her kind of, it's really hard to really explain this. It's kind of her hair, but it's kind of her face in a way. But this is meant to symbolize her hair, which is kind of the extruding part, and it's pretty much tied on either point, which is just a fine material, which is stitched across to basically give that illusion that it's kind of a outwards ponytail, which I think is great. And you have her further design on the side. Now the drawback on this is, besides everything bits and pieces, but probably everything is washed up except for whatever reason this little hairband. I would have preferred this to be thicker. You can feel that there is something in there, but there isn't sufficient. On her head sculpt there's enough stuffing, which is great. On her ponytail, I'm afraid it isn't as prominent as I would have hoped, and that's really something that bothers me. It is what it is. I'm sure it's a manufacturer thing where basically they want to save cost, which it is what it is. I'm not complaining. It is a complaint, but it's kind of like it doesn't detract anything. It's just more or less a personal preference, and that is. Now, of course, I always have to bring this up, and if it's something that bothers you, I can understand. Now you have, of course, the tag that comes obligatory with these plushes. They're massive. It does detract from the actual plush itself. From a collector's point of view, I'm not going to remove. From a non-collector point of view, you can remove it off and away you go. You have a picture of Sonic the Hedgehog and it says Sonic Boom, and at the very bottom you have sticks. As per the norm, I'm going to have to always say that I would have preferred either a picture of Sonic and sticks together, or sticks as a standalone picture so people can associate. But I can understand why they basically just have picture of Sonic. People must associate Sonic as Sonic, and they may not necessarily know the extended character cast of, you know, Sonic Boom or Sonic the Universe, which is, I understand. And of course, if you open it up, here's the obligatory information. I never understood why they have this so massive. I know it's mostly unified with all the other plushes, but it's this one in particular. It's always massive. I would have preferred it to be smaller. I don't know why they have it this big. It really irritates me. And what also irritates me is they have it on the actual ponytail sides of the thing. I would have preferred it if they had it at the back, which is less intrusive from a collector's point of view and a display point of view. But it is what it is, and I can't necessarily complain. Now, you do have her hands, which are pretty much unified on both sides, but what made this especially unique, I'll see if I can get this. In this one, you have a yellow, it's very hard to see on my cam, a yellow band, which is just a band that wraps around her arm, which I think is alright. What made it even unique is on the other side you have two kind of grey bands on either side. It makes it very animalistic. It does capture the essence of stick, which I think is great, which I think is phenomenal, because they actually add attention to detail to an extent, of course. And the fact that these are literally just material, that they do nothing more than just showcase how creative she is and wacky of character she is. So the fact that they added that and just not made a plan, bonus points. Now her hands do go through the old plush design where basically it's just crunched over, and they basically just put stitching across the fingers just to exemplify the actual fingers. I would hope one day in the future they'll make a plush where the fingers are pretty much independent. Not a figurine point of view, but kind of just like a normal plush design. I doubt that's ever going to happen, but it's just something I could only wish for. So the hands are pretty well done. It does suffer from the standard miniaturized plush designs where it's extremely well stuffed, and of course the pivot points pretty much have nothing there, and that's more or less just to throw around for, I don't know, posing purposes, if anything. That's always been a nitpick. It does not detract anything away from the design of the plush itself. It's just something I need to always constantly bring up because it's just me and I am very about that. Now her chest design, I feel suffered a little. It's just a material plastered on top of her chest, and it does carry over to her back as well, which I think is great. But it does pretty much just have her chest design and her necklace and various other little ornaments. So you have a necklace, but it's just literally material plastered on. That's something I'm a little about. You know, I don't hate it. It does what it's meant to do, which is showcase her necklace and her chest and blah blah blah. I just would have preferred if maybe they added an extra material that could be flipped and be flimsy, that could exemplify their necklace. I guess from a cost effective point of view, I can see why they didn't add it, but I would have preferred it. That's probably one of the things that annoys me. Now they do that similar effect with the actual skirt itself. The only difference is it is a separate material, and you can basically lift it up if you're one of those people. And They have, of course, like kind of her string band, which is kind of acts like a belt, and it does transform or translate all the way at the back. And of course, you have a big tail there and a big butt. I mean, she has no butt. Well, a butt of a plush of a butt. So the skirt itself is phenomenally well done, very well detailed, especially when you have markings like that. You know, I'm surprised by that, to be honest. I thought it was going to be one unified, but the fact that they went that extra mile and added that small attention to detail, phenomenal. Once again, I would have preferred that to be a separate material, the little string, her little belt, and just maybe stitched it on both sides. Just give it more of a 3D effect to it, you know. But it is what it is, and I can't really complain because, you know, for the price, I think it's pretty affordable. You need to have a price bracket. You know, the more expensive ones are going to cost more detail, and I'll be more critical about that. But this isn't as expensive. I'll probably say this is entry level plush, and you know what? It's not bad, to be honest. I mean, the nitpicks, these nitpicks that I bring up, it's personal nitpicks. It doesn't subtract anything away from the plush itself. It's just me being me. Of course, you have a feet, extremely well stuffed, superb. Of course, it does suffer from the pivot points not being well stuffed, but totally understandable. You have a feet, and you can already notice how unique and different her feet are. They're exactly the same to an extent in terms of material, but the coloring, I'm gonna twist her like the whole Exorcist movie, Exorcist sort of thing. So, for example, her shoes are completely different from one side. So the actual pivot point, for example, this one, do different forms of grey. Awesome. It is a lighter form of gold, and you have kind of a brown mesh design, which kind of acts kind of like the whole bandage-esque effect, but more barbaric or barbarian-esque way. Now, it doesn't follow through at the bottom, which I'm a little bum about, but it's okay. It's not necessarily bad. And you do have great attention to detail, which is, I guess you could argue, that's the buckle, and that's just basically click serve, and it's just a little reddish line that corresponds around the shoe. So that's her, well, depending on how you look at it, that's her right, which is my right, and her left is exactly the same in terms of the golden effect and the red marking. The only difference is it's only, instead of being brown, it's got a grey little marking at the top. On the side, you have more of a attention to detail, which basically acts more like a sandal, which carries over all the way to the back on either side, and of course at the top you just have one grey piece. Now, straight on the bat, I'm going to say this plush is superb. It does suffer from what you would expect from, I'm not saying this is a bad plush by no stretch of the imagination. It does, I wouldn't say it suffers, but it does have the small minute things that you would expect from a less expensive plush. I'm not saying this is cheap, I'm just saying it's less expensive compared to the other ones that are out there. So the criticism on this is more of a personal nitpick than anything else. It is a superb plush, no question about it. Very vibrant, very colorful, great attention to detail, which is always a plus. But of course, you know, you do have, for example, the little tag up there, which is always bothersome for me. But other than that, it is superb. It does match well with the other ones, which is the Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails. There is a shadow one, which I will review down the track. But it is great. It does what it does, and for the first iteration of this sticks the character to being a plush form, I think Tommy has really done a superb job on this. I cannot find any major fault for me on my plushing. I cannot find any major fault on this that really exemplifies me to dislike this in any way. The only other side nitpick that I do have is size comparison. Now, I don't have the other one with me at the current time, but the Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, and this are exactly the same length in height. Now, as you know, in the game and in the comic and even in the TV show, Sticks is actually smaller. I'll probably say in line or a little smaller than Tails, but they all match in the same height. So it doesn't really scale well in comparison to the other of its range, which is a slight bummer for me. I would have preferred a smaller iteration. For example, when GE Entertainment creates their plush line, it scales well with all of them. You know, Vector is larger than Sonic, etc., etc., etc. So that's more of a, I guess, nitpick. I guess this is going for a 3.5 inch scale line, and it does well. So would I recommend you guys pick it up? Honestly, definitely. You know, it's I know people are quite skeptical on the whole Sonic Boom franchise, and they're not big contenders in wanting to buy or support this this franchise or this subdivision, which is technically a different timeline of sorts. But look, honestly, the fact is, putting the gameplay aside, the universe itself is pretty extraordinary in itself, especially when the new game Fire and Ice are coming out, which expands on the universe. And I've always made comments that I always wanted a plush, other characters other than the standard Sonic, Tails, etc., etc. I wanted other characters. The fact that Tommy's actually gone out its way to do it, superb. I've no issue whatsoever. How much did I get it for? I think I got it for about $12. I got it in a massive package, of course, with other things. But $12 you can purchase it in most places: eBay, ToyWiz, Amazon, your local gaming store, of course. Of course, in Australia, I found it in a few Toys R Us and Kmart, so you can definitely check those out. As to if they're stocking them now, I'm not 100% sure. But definitely pick it up. I think it's a nice addition to anybody's collection. Let me know in the comments below if that's something you got, or if you think this is a pretty good rendition of the character itself. But anyway, guys, speed on, take care, until next time.